music for a second, and then we're going to be on and popping. Well, we are so excited to have with us today a featured guest, our very first guest on the LDCC Cyber Month, October 2022 podcast / live stream / festival of all things tech. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Ieshea Hollins from Dorensic Technologies. If I had I should have brought like a little hand clap, hey, a sound effect, because that would have really set it off right. How are you today?
I'm doing amazing, Ryan. How are you?
We're happy to have you here, and I know I'm doing really well. This is the kickoff, right? This is the very first Cyber Month activity that we're having. Louisiana Delta Community College School of Business and Technology putting on this event, and it's going to be chock full of exciting speakers and just a lot of great information. And we're just again really pleased to have you on the show to kick it all off. So, Aisha, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us some backstory.
Well, yes. And happy National Cybersecurity Awareness Month to you as well. It is definitely a very exciting month. It's going to be jam-packed with so many good things. And so I'm so very excited to be a part of this initiative with you guys. A little bit about myself. My name is Ieshea Hollins. I am the founder and CEO and fractional CISO for Dorensic Technology.
Can I pause you right there? See, this is what happens when you get on a show with me, right? What does that even mean? Fractional CISO. What is that?
That's a great question. It's one I get asked all the time. So CISO, let's tackle that one first, which is Chief Information Security Officer. And fractional CISO is basically what we do with fractional employees is you have someone in a position, especially one where there's a lot of demand, right? So that's what we have right now that's going on. But that particular individual, they operate as in my case, a chief information security officer for a multitude of organizations. So not just one, right? Because it does not allow you to just be tied to just one. So we're able to take the organizations in, put them on in our queue, and we're able to give them the services that they need, that CISO attention that they need without having to necessarily be that full burden on their payroll.
Wow. Okay. I like that. That's really good. So that's a great way to say it. When I introduced you and I said, oh, we have Ieshea Hollins here from Dorensic Technologies, I often wondered what's in a name. So what is the story behind the Dorensic name? How did you come up with that?
Another great question. So technically the name Dorensic derives from digital forensics. When I first started my organization, we actually specialized or focused specifically in the arena of digital forensics. So we worked with attorneys and law enforcement to assist attorneys who were getting ready to either go to court or they had a case. We got started back in 2008. And so what we wanted to do was to help bring knowledge and information in an area around cyber crime at the time, right? So a crime had been committed and you're either being accused of it, your attorney needed to prep for the case, law enforcement is already involved, right? And so how do you challenge, and that's actually how we got our start. Like, how do you, prepare your case, making sure that your attorney's asking all the right questions, doing all the right things, was all the right steps and procedures followed, all of those, the chain of custody. So either way, when we got started, we actually started digital forensics. And once we've been going for a little while and just really kind of going out, I had been working or doing those pitch competitions, right? And so we were doing really well throughout Louisiana. We did a pitch competition in Shreveport and in Alexandria, and we were either landing second or third. And so around the third one that I did, we actually had a group of doctors that came and they were like, what you're doing is great, but you're being reactive. Something has already transpired.
Okay.
You're only getting involved after the fact. Have you thought about actually getting started in or looking at cybersecurity? And this was at the time where high-tech HIPAA was just really getting its rolling out. And so we had so many of our doctors and their offices trying to make sure that they were meeting the compliance needs. So we actually went back, sat down, met with my board of advisors at the time and just had that conversation. What would it look like, to actually add cybersecurity? And so we became one of the first organizations to privately offer both cybersecurity and digital forensic services to non-law enforcement agencies.
Wow. I mean, groundbreaking. That's pretty neat. Yeah. How, speaking of that, where did that start here? Did you say it started in Louisiana when you first started that?
Yes.
What are your ties to the state and what makes this place, what makes it home?
Well, it's just that my ties here are that this is home for me. So my parents were born and raised here. They raised us here, right? I have 3 sisters. And my parents, like I said, they've been married, 50, wow. I'm getting in trouble. They've been married 50 plus years. My father's a pastor. And so, our church is here. This is home, right? So my ties were more to our community, wanting to see things happen. We oftentimes, and that was one of the things at the time that I started my organization, I was working at CenturyLink, which is now Lumen. And you have a lot of people that would go to college or go to school in technology, but they didn't think that they could stay at home, right?
I see. You
could get the education, you could be homegrown, but then where do I work, right? Yeah. What do I do?
It's a good question.
That's a wonderful question. It still is a wonderful question. And it was one of the things that CenturyLink wanted to tackle. So they began a IT recruiting initiative, right? And so it was actually spearheaded. It was Bill Bradley was the CTO at the time. He talked with Calandra Dupree Smith, my really good friend, and myself, and we got things kind of going, kind of rolling. And so we began to kind of work with some of the colleges to make sure that they understood that, not Dorensic, but that CenturyLink was a place or a home for their tech students as they were coming out of college. And then we just continue to grow that program. I believe that they're still doing it. I've been gone for a little while, but it really turned out to be a really great initiative for the state. But it was important to me with this being home, that I also give back, right? It's one thing to say I got my education in Louisiana, and then I take all of the proceeds, right, or all of the skills, all of the talents outside, right? And so for me, it was important that I started my business here in Louisiana. And so I did. We got our start in 2008, grew the company. I went full time. So I did leave CenturyLink in 2013. I went full time in this organization and just began to grow it. Being a woman of color in technology. So that has been a very fun an exciting journry.
Trailblazing, right? I mean, there's a lot to that, and that's a lot to unpack. That's probably a whole other interview by itself.
It is.
But that's why, but you're here now, and you're doing everything that you're doing. I mean, think about it. You became an entrepreneur. That's not easy, right?
No.
You a woman of color in tech, a woman of color in tech. I mean, all those things. If you're watching out there right now, we're breaking down barriers, or you broke down barriers, and we need to make sure that everybody knows that they have a chance to be included in this tech ecosystem. And so, again, I mean, that there's just so much that you represent. Now, when we think about technology, everybody wants to play with the technology. They want to explore it. They want to learn about it. They want to just embrace it. And if you're a techie, like, I know like myself or like you, all you think about is what can this do for me? Whatever the neatest toy is, IoT devices, our smart homes, everything. But sometimes it's difficult to scale back and to just say, wait a minute, is this going to expose me to something, to a risk, to something that I don't want to invite in? And so part of what you do, or a lot of what you do in your consulting agency, is try to help small businesses, medium businesses, large businesses navigate the cybersecurity space. And before we get to the meat of what we want to talk about, can you just say, what is it, again, recast what your company is doing for those small and medium-sized businesses right now, as far as, on the cybersecurity front? Real
Certainly.
briefly.
Yes, thank you. So Dorensic Technology, we are a technology issues management consulting firm that specializes in providing, as I said, digital forensic cybersecurity consulting services back to our small and mid-sized level businesses, as well as municipalities and manufacturing companies. Our main thing that we want to do is, and one of the words that we've been using, it's in our logo or our motto, is we want to demystify this word cybersecurity, right? So some of our main services we are the CISO as a service. So that's a virtual chief information security officer as a service, right? We do cybersecurity strategic planning. So what is my cyber maturity look like, right? For my organization? How mature are we, or immature are we, right? What do we look like 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, right? Let's make a plan, and how do we roll it out? We handle vulnerability assessments. So I'm vulnerable, but I may not know where, right? Can you tell me all the places that if I became a target, right, where could the bad actors get in? Then there's penetration testing.
I was going to ask, like, that sounds like we're going there next, but
yeah, that's where we go next. So penetration testing, which a lot of people do, they cross them over and think that they're one and the same, and they're not. So penetration testing says, I know that I'm vulnerable. Now, if I were to attack those vulnerabilities, right? What would I gain access to? So what you've done by hiring us is you gave us permission to attack your network so that you know exactly what is at risk, not an assumption of what's at risk, not just that this port is open, but we don't necessarily know where that port points or where it resides or what data resides there, right? When we've attacked that system, okay, so now we have access to, we're on your networks, we're on your servers, we're on your financial servers, we can see your emails, we can see passwords, right? So that's a penetration test. It's very, very scary.
It's like, I don't know, it's sort of like, seeing the truth. And nobody wants to see or know the truth, and you're there to expose the truth, but only for that business's own good. Sometimes you have to have those tough conversations and show where a business is exposed in order for them to realize what they need to do to protect themselves from potential disaster.
Exactly. One of the examples that I give my clients is a lot of times it's kind of like, if your home was robbed, right? And the cops come, you call the police and they show up. The first thing they're going to ask you is, well, what was taken? Give us a list of what's missing and how much do you think it was worth, right? So immediately you start going through your head and you start thinking, what's the first thought? My jewelry is gone, right? My jewels, my electronics, my gaming systems, all of the different things that could be missing. That's how you answer the question. But we fail to think in the era that we live right now, right? So what happens if your systems are breached and something is stolen? How do you tell the police, the FBI, when people are holding your information hostage by ransomware, what's missing, where was it, and what's it worth? So that's what we try to help you uncover, so that when your home is broken into, you can actually quantify where things reside. And that's the best way I can try to make it make sense for people that don't get, because we get that all the time. It'll never happen to me. Well, if it was to happen to you, are you ready? Right? Which, kind of ties into the disaster recovery, but let's give the rest of our services. So that actually segues us into, we do disaster recovery planning, preparedness, right? Business continuity. If there was something to happen, how long how long am I down before I can get back up? And how long can I tread water before I have to close my doors, right? So you need to know the answers to those questions, right? And so we help you with that. And then the final thing, well, not the final, we do cyber liability consultations. So we need cyber liability insurance, but the cyber liability game has changed a bit. And so we have to go through and we have to answer the questionnaire. We have to be able to say, these are some of the steps that I've taken to safeguard myself. So in the event that I'm breached, my coverage will actually pay for the breach, right? And so we assist our clients with that. And then, as I said, finally, we do training. So cybersecurity awareness is our one of our main things. I absolutely love the training, because if you don't know what you don't know, then that's why we are having a lot of the issues that we have. And so we'll do everything from the cybersecurity awareness. We do those phishing stimulation, things that'll come to your inbox. And then for those companies that say, you know what, my employees are trained, they know what they're doing, we believe that they know, then we have a service where we call it Tabletop Exercise. So we can actually do just a sit down one where we talk through the scenario, or you hire us, you bring us in, we understand what your training, what you believe your employees will do in the event of a breach. And then what we do is you give us permission one day to throw a bomb in there and test out the waters. And we allow you to see what they would really do versus what you think they would do.
I would say it doesn't matter how much training someone gets, an employee gets. Anybody can be fooled, I feel like. I mean,
yes.
There have been times when, and I pride myself in seeing, like, especially phishing emails. That's one of the things that I pride myself on. Oh, I can see that a mile away. This is not going to lead down a good path. But I have even gotten tricked because it's not just about you being knowledgeable, but where are you in that moment? Are you in a rush and you're looking at an email on your phone, and maybe your phone doesn't show it the same way that your desktop would show it, so you just assume, oh, this is from HR, or this is from the IT department, I'm going to click on this attachment, and then boom, you've been had. You get that message that says, sorry, this was, you shouldn't have ever gone down this road. This was part of training. Now you have to go through some additional training in order to remind you of what the proper protocol is in looking at these phishing scams. But I'm sure that there's other ways too to test the waters to see what your employees know or don't know. Would you mind going into a little bit of that besides just email? What else might just give us maybe one more example of what else you might do to try to trick or do some testing, vulnerability testing on employees?
Well, again, we have, so there's the email scam, right? Most of us are aware of that. Then you also have, I don't know, let me think another way to test.
Or maybe that's the general way, like I guess the most common way, that an employee would be had. But I didn't know if there was, since I'm asking the expert here, I just wanted to make sure all the bases were covered, right? Was there any other way that, maybe a layman like myself wouldn't necessarily know?
Well, you have the multi-factor authentication test as well, right?
Okay. Multi-factor authentication. Now that sounds like it's its own session, right? Its own 2.5 hour long training. Multi-factor authentication, but maybe give us the Cliff's Notes version of that, because we do have to get to disaster recovery. I'm sorry, I took us down the path. It's my fault, but go ahead.
No, you're fine. Well, with multi-factor authentication, oftentimes you'll have a different, and so multi-factor authentication, right? I'm trying to sign into something. It's the what right? What you have. So we're going to test, we're trying to get into something, and then it's going to send you some type of a code, right? So oftentimes you'll get where the multi-factor authentication or the code goes to someone, and as you said, you're moving so quickly, you receive a phone call and you're asked, can you just provide me that code, right? And so oftentimes we're not thinking, depends on who the person is that's calling, who they say that they're calling from, right? So you also have to look at it from that perspective. Do I give away this code that just came to my phone, or it came to my email address, right? And it looks so legit. It looks like it's correct. I should be able to give this because this is what I'm supposed to do, because it looks like a part of the security, right? So it only makes sense that you feed that information through to the next area. Without thinking.
Yeah. But there's more to that story and ways that you can be had with multi-factor authentication. Now you're really making me feel a little nervous here, but I digress. So I feel like I'm a prime candidate, that at some point, and I hope this to never happen, but I feel like I'm a prime candidate for something to happen. So now I have to ask the question, what we're here for, right? What does disaster recovery really mean? What's the secret sauce, if you can say give us some tips and tricks, and we just need to explore this disaster recovery and risk management topic a little bit more in depth. So, for those that are new to cybersecurity, for those that are in cybersecurity right now, for students that might be tuning into this, walk us through disaster recovery planning and what it's all about, and what we should be considering for either ourselves personally or our small businesses if we own them.
Okay, great question. Thank you for the opportunity to kind of delve into this, right? So we live in Louisiana, right? A state that is known for its natural disasters, right? Almost every year, a couple of times a year now, we have seen hurricanes, we've seen flooding, we see tornadoes, there are fires. So disaster recovery is basically, especially from my perspective, right? Because you got emergency readiness, right? How are you prepared in the event, or how are your systems, your network, your data, your office as a whole, how is it prepared in the event of a disaster? And disasters come in a lot of terms, like, or in a lot of forms. As I said, you can have natural disaster, as in Mother Nature wanted to go outside and have a party and bring you in on it. She got a little drunk, right? Or you have ransomware, right? Something that someone deliberately did to you, right? So when it comes down to disasters, what we don't want to do is, you don't want to be a victim of a disaster. No, you can't prepare, because yes, you can prepare. I'm sorry. Most of them you can't predict, was the word I was going for, right? Okay. So no, you can always predict what's coming up the road. That's why they're called emergencies. But it's the same way that you have to, when we have our kids at home or at the schools, for tornadoes, what is the tornado? What is the shelter in place plan, right? If there is a fire, it's called stop, drop, roll. You know what you're to do with yourself in the event of a disaster. So it's the same way you need to be cognizant and conscious of, what data do I have? What data am I responsible for? Where do I store said data? And then how do I, quote unquote, back up that data? So I'm just thinking about, just a couple of weeks ago, what just happened in Florida. So you got a lot of companies that are trying to overcome the flooding that just happened in Florida. Well, right now, the first frame of mind that every one of those individuals are in, and we're definitely praying for them, right? First, foremost, loss of life, right? Second of all, how do I get back on my feet at my home? So oftentimes, sometimes the last thing we're thinking about is what's going on at my office, right? So when we started talking again, and much like if someone were to break into your home, depends on the type of organization you are. Do you have valid, tested backups, right? So yes, I collect data. Yes, my data, if it's on site, right? Is it in a filing cabinet? Is it on a drive that's local inside of my facility? Do I have a local copy of my data and an offsite copy of my data? And when you start talking about offsite, well, do I have an external hard drive that may be somewhere else? Am I backing up to the cloud? And so then we want to have those conversations as to how frequently am I backing up my data? And this is all information. Oh, I already know this. I don't need to think about this, until you actually have to run the question through your mind. How frequently am I backing up? And how often do I need to? Certain businesses and certain organizations, they should be backing up almost daily, right? Because if you're trying to go backwards, like if you're looking at client data, or if you need to pull up medical data, if you're a lawyer, right, and you're needing to prepare, and you're preparing for court or a case of some sort, right, and some natural disaster were to happen, but you still need to be in court the next day, because you can't always presume, much like what just happened in Florida, that the natural disaster or that the disaster impacted everyone. What if that disaster only impacted you? And so therefore you still have to be on your toes and ready to go, even though you have all of these things that are going on in your personal life, right? So that's what makes you say, let's sit down and let's have a conversation. Not only do I have backups, well, sure, I'm backing up. Let's say I'm backing up to the cloud. And but this is set up automatically, right? Because are you the person in charge of your data? Well, what does that mean, Aisha? Well, have you hired a third-party IT company? Or are you the person in charge of your data? These are all conversations that need to be had at the forefront, right? What is communication between you and your third party. I have backups, but did you test the backup? Did you make sure that the backups will work on your current systems? Oftentimes we will set up how our backups are to be taken based off of a system today. And because we don't have a plan, we don't revisit that conversation because in our head it's checked off as a checkbox. Then you change a software that you're using. You change a process for your organization. You might even go out and change all of the PCs inside of your org, right? And you're not thinking, because again, we can't expect the business owner, right? My main job as a business owner, I'm going to focus on what it is I'm good at. So as a doctor, I'm focusing on medicine. As a lawyer, I'm focused on the law. I'm going to make sure that I'm doing the law to the best of my abilities. So sometimes IT is just a checkbox for me. Is my systems, are they up? Am I online? Do my printers work? And did somebody tell me that I have a backup? But I failed to test to make sure that any of the data being captured is usable data that I can use in the event of a disaster.
Wow. I just want to rewind the tape because there were so many nuggets that you gave to us. I mean, from the very beginning of that all the way down. And I was honestly, I was trying to type some things and I couldn't keep up. There was just no way. I feel like, no, it's fine. It's perfect. I mean, those are the things that people need to hear. And that's why this is being streamed, but also you'll be able to go back and replay it. Everybody who's joining us, thank you so much. You know, as you were talking, it made me think that what you do, it's obvious to you, but it's not always obvious to everybody else. What you do is very time consuming, very detail oriented, and it takes a lot of effort to pull off a proper, first of all, getting people prepared to, for lack of a better word, prepared, cyber aware, cyber prepared. And then, of course, having that disaster recovery plan. I mean, there's a lot to it. And I feel like you gave us already some of the secret sauce that is, how to keep yourself safe. But even with that information that you gave, I feel like there's still so much more that you maybe aren't able, or you're not telling us, you're not able to say because each individual entity is different, and they're going to have different scenarios for each. I guess one of the things, I mean, I don't know, can we think of like a scenario? Maybe, you're a retail organization and you're trying to think about how can I best prepare myself in the case of A, a natural disaster, or B, a threat actor, or all the above, right? You mentioned backing up to the cloud. You mentioned, you mentioned so many things. I mean, in that scenario though of a retail organization, what would you say? What are like your top 3, 4, 5 things that you would require for your disaster recovery plan?
Great question. So as you were saying, each organization is held by a different standard, right? So and that's the thing about what we do. Oftentimes people want to give or receive a cookie cutter answer, and you're not going to be able to. That's why for us, we say we have that conversation based on you, right? What your needs are, where you're located. Okay. So for a retail shop, again, retail covers still so much. Are we talking clothing? Are we talking malls? Are we talking retail as in you offer baked goods and things? So let's think about from, you got your theft, you got, if you have, I guess, garments or whatever, are you making sure that you are compliant, right? Because now you're taking payments on a regular basis in and out of your payment gateway, right? Is your gateway secure, right? Have you tested that? Where are you logging? Is there a backup to your sales, right? Or are you only trusting that one area is covered and therefore I don't necessarily need to track? Where are your financials being kept? Right? Because you still have to do accounting. You still have to level set where all of your stuff is going. You still have to make sure you're paying your taxes and that you collected the right amount of taxes. So then you have your emails, right? So now I have my emails. Are my emails properly? Am I opening them the right way? Am I making sure that I'm monitoring who and with whom I'm talking? Do I have a communication channel that is set up to ensure that in the event something were to happen, the bank knows whom to look for a message for to release payment, right? Think about tax time. That could be your accountant. So therefore, they're not looking for word from you, but they're looking for word from your trusted accountant. So there's so many different things that we have to be cognizant of, right? Let's think about a bakery. So they have all the same thing that a retail shop or that a clothing shop would have to think about. But what if you're in your bakery and you're using all of mom's or grandma's or all of these family recipes and secrets? You have this secret recipe that you use that makes it proprietary to your organization. If somebody else started adding just a splash of nutmeg where everybody else is adding cinnamon, and that would kind of ruin things. Where are you keeping your most proprietary information? And if that were to get out, what kind of damage would that do? What and that oftentimes the people don't think about that too. What do you do for damage control, right? So once something has happened, or as we talk about in our disaster recovery planner, as you said earlier. So I clicked the link by accident because I thought I was savvy enough to understand this is a phishing attempt. And we have to be very honest. The phishing attempts are getting better and better every day. So that's why it's so important that we continue with those scenarios. We do a variation of simulations. They're not going to all come in looking the same. We adjust them based off of your company's maturity, right? If enough of your employees are passing this section of phishing, then it's time for us to up the ante, right? We don't need to keep testing you on this level, but we need to make sure, can you pass the next level? And what about the next level up from that? So those are just some of the things that you have to be thinking about, because a disaster for you may be someone stole the recipes to my mama's sweet potato pie, right? They stole the recipe to this age-old pound cake that we make. That for you could be a disaster. Whereas for me, the floods that happened, what was that, 2019? Well, for me, I had all of my servers and they were all inside of a room and the water floods in. Well, for me, that was how quickly can I turn from here, to my outside source so that my clients, be they local or not local, they don't experience the negative from the fact that I went through something horrible.
Wow. Great. Great response to the question. And you went clothing, you went bakery, all those different ways. I do have a question that came up in the chat actually. And you've described so many great things, but the question that came up is there such a thing as being so cyber prepared that there is no need for a disaster recovery plan? Is it possible? Have you heard of that before?
I haven't. Okay, so let's just say this. Because of the way, so technology changes daily. You tapped on it when we first got started. Let's talk about iPhone. The second you get an iPhone, there's already the next version of the iPhone that's coming out. Second you get the Mac. The second you get any tech, they're already working on the next version. So I look at it the same way with disaster recovery planning, with my cybersecurity plan. That's why I said we will do strategic planning 1 year, 2 year. By that 3rd year, we're already back at the table having that conversation. There's no point to go 5 years, right? Because everything that you have in place is basically whatever that plan was, you're re-looking at what does that look like for us? What are we changing? What new systems should we be trying? Where should we be transitioning? Maybe, possibly, right? So yes, it's very important that you have a cybersecurity plan. It puts you several steps ahead of your competition. I'll say that. Having a disaster recovery plan, awesome step in the right direction, because oftentimes people don't even do that step. But to say that I have it and therefore I stop, that's a scary place to be. Because again, whatever you have should have aged out or somebody stopped. Either you stopped doing business or the world stopped. Like, yeah.
Well, I like what you're saying there, because basically you're saying it's one of those things, just like a strategic plan or anything else that you would do for a business. You have to revisit it. You put it in place, and then you measure it, and you see, well, how are we doing? Has the landscape changed? What do we need to change to adjust to the times? And so you very eloquently explain that, and I appreciate that. Here's another question from the chat. And that question is actually I think I just said it. Is there a way, or should one test a disaster recovery plan? Like how do you test? Is there such a thing as testing it without the disaster actually happening? Can you talk to that for a second?
Yes. So remember, that's one of the things that I kind of talked about in one of the services that we offer, right? They're called Tabletop Exercises, right? And so with a tabletop exercise, as I said, we offer the 2 different versions. We can either have like a touch point meeting, right? And you bring your employees in and then you role play, right? So you kind of talk through this or that happened. And then you kind of talk through, so what are our steps? What do you do next? Who do you call next, right? So you can do it that way. It's not as aggressive as the other one, which is our inaction tabletop exercise, as an employer, you allow a disaster to happen, or the idea of it to happen, right? So you simulated it, right? So you may not want to do this. And again, as a small business, it does kind of make it just a little bit more difficult, and some are prepared to do it, right? So you might have where a good example could be if you have an e-commerce site, right? And that's your business. So everything is online. Well, for some of our clients, what we like to do is suggest that you actually have a mock-up of your system, right? So though your real website is safe, over here, you have a mock test environment. And then we can launch an attack at your mock environment so that you can see what it really looks like. How long does it take me to recover? Can I recover from it, right? And then you can look at it from a real perspective, but you never really put your real information at risk. Oftentimes, a lot of people really kind of love that because it's very eye-opening. But at the same time, there's this feeling of you still kind of know in the back of your head, yeah, but this is not real. And oftentimes we need to get out of that where we're comfortable thinking, yeah, but this is not really real, right? Because at any point, anything that we run, any one of these scenarios that we run, they could be real for you in real time, because we don't know. Lightning could strike. Are you ready? Right? We're not just talking about that, like I said, ransomware, or that somebody intentionally from the inside, because we have insider threats, right? You can have an employee that is working to do damage to your organization. Well, that's another another risk you have to look for. So make sure you're doing your SWOT analysis too. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? What are your threats, right? That's part of that vulnerability assessment. The likelihood that I will suffer from an insider threat issue may be low, but what are the impacts, right? Let's make sure that we're spending at least one time a year. Let's sit down, because as business owners, we spend so much time working in our businesses, right? Switching out all of the hats that oftentimes we will fail to work on the business, right? And this is something much like your taxes that people fail to do. We love to use the tech, and we oftentimes fail to evaluate the risk of the things we are adopting.
Wow. Very, very, very good stuff. I'm looking at the chat to see if there's any more questions. I don't see any more popping up just yet. And I also recognize that time-wise, I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. You have shed a lot of light on the topic, not just disaster recovery, but just how to stay safe. What a treat to hear all this. I feel like there's another question that I should have at the top of mind, but I just can't think of one. Is there anything that you want to tell the viewing audience that would sort of put a bow on this conversation? I mean, I feel like it could go on forever, but how would you summarize what you said? Give us, again, like a couple of parting words and some things that we should think about as we leave this session.
So I have a friend. We were having a conversation one day, and it was just so enlightening for me, right? And he asked a question. He said, why do people, you speed, right? You don't mind speeding, but, why do people not think about the impacts of stopping a car the same way they think about how much fun it is to drive that fast? So you'll go out and you'll shop for a vehicle, and you're looking for all of the bells and whistles. Does it go fast? Is it shiny? Is it a pretty color? And how often do we also ask the salesman, how reliable are those tires? How reliable are the brakes? How much money did we spend on the brakes? Because what we understand is it's easier to go than it is to stop, right? And so going is the fun part. It's to making sure that when you need to stop, you can, that you've put all the right measures in place so that you can enjoy what you just purchased, right? If that makes sense. So when it comes to your technology, let's not think about how shiny it is all the time, and how fast and how quick and how sleek and how cool I'll look because I have the latest tech. Let's start looking at risk and disaster recovery as in, but if there is danger, am I equipped to stop on a dime? That's how you make sure that's how you set up your risk. If you can't afford the car that goes fast because you can't afford to stop it, then don't get it, right? Same with your tech. Go just as slow with your tech as you can afford to secure it.
Wow.
That's my bow.
Incredible. I really appreciate that. That is an excellent analogy. Now, if I'm out there in cyberland and I'm listening to this or I'm watching this broadcast, and I want to get in touch with you, or I want to connect with you, how would I do that, first of all? And then secondarily, I feel like I have some insight into your speaking engagements, Like we had to carve out time so that you could just take part in this hour-long seminar, if you will, or workshop or webinar,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. But there's two questions. It's how can someone continue to connect with you? And then also, where else can we hear you talk and spread the gospel, if you will, of cybersecurity?
That's a great question. Thank you. So I am on all the social media channels. So you can find me on Facebook. I say Twitter, but I shudder to say Twitter. I'm rarely there, but we're on Twitter, LinkedIn. We're very active on LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram. And each one of those we can be found under Dorensic. Usually you can just leave the technology part off. And then also Aisha as well. So I'm out there. You can find me, personally, you can hit me in my inbox. I'm usually very accessible. We are on TikTok as well. And then additionally on Instagram, as far as speaking engagements that go just a little bit beyond just the cybersecurity part. I'm out there as Aisha Speaks. As far as upcoming events, as I say again, this is October. This is probably my busiest month, right? Because we absolutely love sharing and spreading the awareness. So all throughout October, definitely follow us and like us and subscribe on our YouTube, because we're on YouTube as well.
Yeah, we'll make sure that I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but we'll make sure for everybody that's wondering, right? They're writing this down or they're trying to, we will have in the show notes the information that was just said. So you don't have to worry about scrambling if you're driving right now. And, because people will watch or listen to YouTube and drive at the same time. Hopefully you're listening, not watching. We will have all that information outlined for you in the show notes. So you can just simply click the links. But okay, continue on transitioning now into the where can we find you, catch you, see you speak, learn more. I think I actually have a graphic that I'm going to post now that shows all that. So go ahead, tell us all.
Yes. Please post the graphic as well. Throughout October, which is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, on October the 13th, there will be a cybersecurity lunch and learn that'll be hosted in Dallas, Texas by QNet. So we definitely encourage you guys to be there for that. There will be an additional cybersecurity lunch and learn for which I will be a panelist, where we're going to talk about the Chief Information Security Officers. What is that? What does it look like, right? That will be also at the University of Texas at Dallas, UTD. So that's going to be on October the 26th. Then right here in Monroe, the Monroe Chamber of Commerce will be hosting a cybersecurity summit. On Thursday, October the 27th, I will be there doing a segment on dark web. It's the new way of gold mining. So I will be there. We'll have our booth and everything set up. Come by, see us, visit with us, get some information, get some swag. We're going to have some stuff that'll be there.
I'm going to be there. So I intend to take as much as you can give: pens, pencils, notebooks. I mean, computers, anything.
No, sir. I will not have a computer for you.
Okay, will you do a drawing for like free cybersecurity consultation, maybe, or something like that? I know I'm putting you on the spot, right? That's just the wrong thing to do. But hey,
actually, we will, because we will be. We'll have a couple of giveaways. One of our giveaways is a free dark web scan. So those usually run around $175 a scan. Well, for the report, you get your scanning report. I'm going to give away one free dark web scan. We're also having I will be hosting our 9th annual Cybersecurity Awareness Conference and Business Expo that'll happen in Dallas. Tickets are on sale right now. The early bird, they're $75, but we're going to offer a virtual ticket for those in Monroe who can't get to Dallas.
That's nice.
We're going to offer a virtual ticket that day at the event. So be sure to be there. We're going to make sure that you have an opportunity to enter your name for that particular drawing and be my guest. You're invited to join us to that event. That event again will be Friday, October 28th, we have an amazing lineup. That event's going to go from 9 to 5. And so I will be doing again the dark web segment, but then we're going to follow it up with governance and risk. We're going to talk about access control and multi-factor authentication, what's new, what's hot, what's not, right? We're going to do a lunch segment we're super excited about. It's called Take a CISO to Lunch, right? So we're going to have a panel of only CISOs, Chief Information Security Officers. They're going to tell you a day in the life of a CISO, why as a small business I would need a CISO, what I could get from a CISO. And then each one of the CISOs is one of their give backs for this particular event. They're going to have 4 slots. So it's first come, first serve. So you got to get your ticket first, and then you'll get the opportunity to sign up. They will do a one-on-one with a small business owner for 15 minutes as a part of your ticket. We will then roll from that into, we're going to have a segment from the FBI. They're going to sit with us and they're going to talk through how to make sure you're leaving breadcrumbs so that in the event you are attacked, they can actually investigate the crime. You'll be amazed at how often people don't do that. This is going to be an amazing section. I love it because I'm like, yes, please tell them, right? And then we're going to actually the next will be a segment we're going to have a panel discussion. It's cybersecurity impacts by industry. So we're going to have risk there, legal, training, risk. So just come see, right? And then we're going to close out with a fireside chat. We had a supervisory special agent that has 25 years in the field, and he's going to be there to do a conversation of the things that they saw firsthand. So you don't want to miss out on that as an opportunity. That's my lineup for October. November, I will be at the Women's Empowerment Conference that will be held in Fairfield, Texas. And then for our CPAs in December, there will be a Texas CPA Expo conference that's going to be held in Houston, San Antonio, and in Dallas. And I am on to speak. I teach 2 classes per city all throughout December.
Okay, so I have the graphic back up on the screen because that's a lot, and I was trying to switch back and forth. What I'm noticing is that you have 3 days in a row, the 26th, 27th, and 28th, where you're presumably back and forth, whether virtually or otherwise, between Texas and Louisiana. And then you also, I don't think you said anything, but I have it up on the screen for everybody. There's a book signing event on November 18th. And so that is very interesting. You've written a book. Did you not? Did you say that and I missed it? Or
I didn't say it.
Okay. So for everybody that's out there, right? I mean, think about it. This is Ieshea Hollins. She is an entrepreneur extraordinaire because not only is she doing the work of being basically a CEO of a company and also being a fractional CISO for lots of other companies, but she's also writing books. I mean, this is the quintessential at every turn and at every opportunity. You're going to take it and you're going to run with it. So, I mean, wow. Up here in North Louisiana, we're proud that you come from our parts, and we're just so thankful that you are always willing to give back. Please, everybody, I will make sure that all the pertinent information is there on the YouTube page. And wow, it's just been a real treat to visit with you. We are at the top of the hour, so we will say sayonara, but join us next time. Hopefully, we'll have you back at some point, whether it be this month or just for something else later on down the road. But also be aware, everyone, that we will have a multitude of special guests coming to us for LDCC Cyber Month. So join us on Facebook. Check us out on the YouTube channel. Just subscribe. That way, every live event you'll be privy to, and you can get more great information like what has been shared today by Miss Ieshea Hollins. Thank you so much for being here. Claps again. I got to get that sound effect. Woo! I got to get the sound effects going. But we will depart and see you at the next Cyber Month event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it.